Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Matt, for joining us here today.
Thanks.
How you doing?
Great, how are you?
Good. Good. So estate planning is something that is often on people's mind, but not often talked about. So maybe just start by explaining what is estate planning.
Yeah, so estate planning is essentially your roadmap for how you want your assets, being your money and your property, to be distributed after you're no longer here, after you pass away. It also defines other important matters, such as which can include who will take care of any minor children and/or pets. Most people don't like to contemplate their own mortality, so often estate planning can be overlooked, or is an overlooked thing when it comes to financial planning. Though it is very important and doesn't necessarily, depending on the circumstances, but doesn't necessarily have to be overly complicated.
What does estate planning involve, Matt?
So there are several factors that should be discussed, but the main pillar would be your will. Your will is a legal document. It defines how your assets are to be distributed, and defines care for dependents. Your will also names the choice of executor, who your beneficiaries are and what they're to receive, any special allocations of personal items, and more. A recent survey actually indicated that less than 50% of adult Canadians actually don't have a will. If you die without a will, your estate is distributed based on provincial legislation, and what you might have envisioned happening to your assets may not actually be what happens. This can actually also cause delays, additional costs, and higher taxes even too. A will becomes active when a person is deceased. So it's also important to consider assigning a power of attorney or healthcare directive in the case that you become incapacitated and may not be able to take care of your own affairs. A power of attorney can take care of your financial affairs if you're not able to, and a healthcare directive can carry on instructions for personal care items. Also, it's important to have named beneficiaries on registered accounts and registered investments such as RSPs, RIFs, LIFs, LIRs, TFSAs. Assigning a successor or beneficiary to these can expedite the process, as the funds can go directly to the beneficiary or the successor. And I'll just note here that the difference between a beneficiary and a successor can only be your common law, your spouse. And the difference there is assets from a registered plan can roll directly over to a successor without any tax implications at the time of that transfer, whereas a beneficiary, there may be tax implications when that happens. Something you definitely would want to speak to an advisor about a little bit further and get more information on that. And so you can basically talk to a professional. A certified financial planner can help you get things started. You might want to talk to your accountant, and you'll definitely want to talk to the lawyer, because they'll need to draft the will and the power of attorney and the healthcare directive for you.
Thanks, Matt. That's a lot of information people think about. Back to you, Dan.